Hey, welcome back to Cash Keyboards. Today we have a challenge. And no, we're not talking about this challenge, but more like this challenge. This is the $50 Silent TEMU Build Challenge. I know what you're thinking. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about $50 build challenges. But the other day, a bunch of friends and I were talking, and one asked me, he said, hey, do they make quiet mechanical keyboards? Which I was like, yeah. And he was like, are they cheap? And to be honest with you, I don't know. So yeah, we figured, why not make it a challenge? The rules are simple. Everything comes from TEMU since it's super popular right now. We'll set the budget at $50. It has to be quiet and actually have to try to make it look good and make it nice. So without further ado, here we go. So we picked this up on TEMU for the total of $26.28. This is the Wacov Meta 68. As you can see, the box is a bit crushed, but I don't know anything about this board. All the information appears to be in Chinese, so we can't read that. We do know that it's hot swap for 3-pin, so that's good. But let's go open the box and jump into it and see what we got. All right, we'll pull the keyboard out. We'll set that aside for a moment. We have a quick start guide. It tells us about RGB and some of the function keys. We'll pull our back flap out. We have a standard USB-C cable. It is detachable, so that's not bad for 26 bucks. Looks like we have some spare switches. Looks like some reds. And a keycap and switch puller. And that's about it. So let's go ahead and set this to the side and we'll focus on the keyboard. All right, coming back and looking at the keyboard. We do have a knob, which is a nice touch. It feels pretty good. The keyboard's weight is surprisingly light. I anticipated it to be light, but it's very light. The back has a cool touch. It says Ivory Tower. Not sure what that's in reference to, but it's kind of neat. It's got dual stage feet for different sizing and angles. There looks to be a bit of pre-molded like cutouts for other models or variations of this board, but that's about it. We have a nice peel on the Wacov. I'm assuming it's Wacov. I'm not sure, but we'll go ahead and peel that off. And yeah, aesthetically, the board does look really nice. We're gonna go through some of the RGB functions here. Go ahead and turn off one of the lights to maybe see it better. The RGB on this is surprisingly, I guess, different, if you want to say that. It definitely has some RGB effects that I wasn't expecting. Yeah, there are your standard ones like the rainbows and stuff, but there's a lot of different movement ones that were kind of cute. Some were a little distracting for my personal taste, but to each their own. They are there. The RGB is bright and vibrant. It does look nice. So yeah, I give it a plus for that. Also, because we missed it, it does have side RGB as well. It does look pretty good. It lights up pretty well. You might see a little bit of flickering on camera, but you can't see it in person. That's just because of the camera. So now that we've seen the RGB and see what it looks like, let's give it a stock sound test. All right, now that we've heard what it sounds like stock, we'll go ahead and start removing the keycaps. Pulling the keycap off, it looks like we do have red switches. We're not sure what these are yet. Let's go ahead and grab our switch puller and get that pulled out. removing the switch. Looks like they are red box linears. These are content switches. I believe they're a low budget, maybe 45 grams of force linear switch. Not really sure. I don't know anything about content switches and I can't find information on them. But yeah, we're not going to use them because we are going for a silent build. So we'll go ahead and set that aside and we'll just continue pulling off our keycaps and disassembling this board. All right, with all of our keycaps off, we'll go ahead and see all the switches. We're gonna go ahead and check the stabs to see how wobbly they are, and surprisingly, they're not very wobbly. They definitely aren't lubed, so we need to take care of that. But it's nice to see that they're not crazy rattly in the plate. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get the switches out and keep moving forward. All right, now we got all our switches out. We're going to check out the plate. It looks like it is just the plastic plate that's built into the case. Nothing crazy fancy there. We do want to separate this, so we're going to check for some screws. Don't see any back here. We don't see any on the top. So it looks like it's going to be one of those pry situations. Now the seams are pretty tight on this keyboard, it looks like, so it might be a bit of a struggle. So we're going to go ahead and just grab a small screwdriver, maybe a pry tool, and see if we can get into this. So I think the best course of action here is going to be going in on this little side piece right here. This is really soft plastic on this keyboard. So if you're using a metal flathead like I am or anything metal like that, prepare to make some like nicks and scratches into the case. If you just go slow and be gentle, it shouldn't be too big of a problem. We just want to create enough of a gap to get our pry tool to slide in there to get those clips off. So now that we got the little gap, we'll go ahead and grab our pry tool and we're going to slide it along the front. This will separate all those clips in the front pretty easily. And yeah, just take it slow. We're going to go ahead and open it up a little bit in the front here. It looks like the clips in the back are holding in place pretty well. We're pretty much just going to wiggle it back and forth. I found wiggling up and down like this gives the back a little bit of separation, which could help you separate the whole board eventually. You just have to be really slow and careful with it. Don't apply too much pressure. You don't want to snap it in half. But if you keep wiggling it up and down, you will see that it will separate eventually. And with that, we reveal an empty case with no foam, no nothing. We are going to separate the PCB from the plate itself. It looks like we have a couple of screws that we'll have to address. But other than that, we'll set that aside. We'll focus just on the case first. All right, the first thing we're going to do at the bottom of the case here is go ahead and grab some EVA foam. This is 2mm thick EVA foam. I really like working with it because it's affordable and it comes in a variety of sizes and thicknesses. It's available pretty much anywhere, craft stores, Amazon, Walmart, anything like that. We're going to go ahead and grab our scissors and cut this down to size. This is probably the easiest thing about working with EVA foam is the fact that you can just make indents to mark where you need to cut. It's super simple. If you're new to modding keyboards or never seen this before, this is pretty much to dampen the sound that comes from the keyboard, to reduce the hollowness noises, or if you have an aluminum keyboard, reduce ping noises or anything like that. There's a variety of materials you can use for this. Just EVA foam is one of the simple ones. And since this is a budget build with a price limit, we want to use the most affordable and easiest option. And to be honest, not gonna lie, I just really like using EVA foam. It's really simple. Alright, now that our case has been foamed, we're going to switch back over to our PCB, and we'll get this all separated as well. Grab our screwdriver, locate our screws, and do the unscrew thing. We did take out 2 screws, and here you'll see that go ahead and try to separate it before finding out there's a 3rd screw that we didn't see. This is a lesson when you're taking these apart, just make sure you go slow. You don't want to force the PCB or bend it or break it or anything like that. So if it doesn't come out the first time or with a little bit of force, make sure you just check for other screws. So we'll grab that 3rd screw, take it out, and now the PCB should be free. Now we'll set our PCB to the side. We're going to go ahead and tackle these stabs since they need to be lubed. So we'll flip the front of our case back over, grab our small screwdriver, and go ahead and remove these stabs. You do this by pressing a little front clip in, and then you lift them right out. It's pretty simple, just keep it slow because you don't want to bend or break anything. Alright, for this, we're going to use 205G0, some dielectric grease, and of course we need a little brush to apply our 205G0. We'll start by grabbing the bar, we'll go ahead and turn it 90 degrees, and we'll pull it straight out of the housing. Just be careful with this part because you don't want it to bend your bar or anything like that. You want it as even as possible. After that, we'll go ahead and separate the stem from the housing. You can always tell the front of the stem because it'll have 2 square holes. The back will have 1 hole. The easy way to know when you're lining it up, putting it back together. 2 holes front, 1 hole rear. It may be silly, but it's simple and it works. When lubing, I like starting with the housing. We'll go ahead and grab a dab of 205G0. I brush on the sides and the back. Not too much. Just like when you're lubing a switch, a little goes a long way. You want it to be kind of like a ninja. You want it to be there, but you don't want it to be seen. With the bar, it's a little bit of a different story. We'll go ahead and grab our dielectric grease. And I like just taking the end and inserting it just past the curve. Once you have a nice even coating on it, we'll go ahead and assemble everything back together. Alright, once you're ready to assemble it back, you'll just slide it back in at the same angle you took it out as, and then 90 degrees, then click it back into place. Super simple, just keep it slow because again, you don't want to bend anything. Alright, once you have everything lubed, we're going to go ahead and put them back in the same way you took them out. If you need help knowing which way they go in, the easiest way I found is their little side notches only line up one way. So as long as those little side notches line up, you're good to go. Alright, now we're going to go move back to our PCB and we're going to do the tape mod. For this, we're actually not going to cover up the holes like I usually do. Due to the front of the PCB not really having a guide on which holes the screws go in, so instead of just making a bunch of random holes to the tape, we're just not going to cover up the screw holes. The tape mod, if you don't know, is just applying masking tape to the back of the PCB. This will reduce the pinginess of the switches, and it can also help dampen the sound and get a nice even feel across the board. We're going to do 2 layers on this board, and then we're going to trim it up, make it all look pretty. Alright, all trimmed up, all good to go. A couple notes here is there's a random switch over here that has an LED in the middle of it. That's actually where the cat paw is, so you don't need to worry about that. Also note that they didn't deburr this PCB very well, and it has a lot of really sharp edges. So be careful. I don't want you to cut yourself or get hurt. Also, this is kind of dirty. I tried to wipe it off as best as possible, but it's kind of just caked on there. So don't worry too much about it, but it's not the prettiest. Luckily, we won't see it when it's all back together. Speaking of all back together, now it's time to reassemble our board. We'll go ahead and grab our plate / top of the case, and we'll go ahead and screw this back in. This does sit at an angle because of the knob, so we're going to go ahead and take 2 screws and we'll start them, but we won't fully set them until we get the 3rd one in. That way we don't have any unevenness or create any stresses on the PCB itself. With everything screwed back together, we'll go ahead and grab the bottom of our case, and we're gonna just flip it back over and just press it all back together. Remember, these are clips, there's no screws for this part. You'll hear it click all the way around. What I like to do is I'll go slow, we'll get everything lined up, make sure our tolerances look good, and then we'll do a once around. When inspected, make sure the seams look good. And don't forget to plug it in just to make sure everything's working good. Alright, all the RGB seems to look good. I'm confident thus far, so we're going to go ahead and keep moving forward. Alright, now that the case and the plate are dealt with, now it's time to address the switches and the keycaps. These are the switches that came with the board. Like I said, these are content red linears. We don't know much about them, but they are a budget switch. Some say they are a 45-gram switch, but I can't confirm that. They do feel alright. They're a bit scratchy to the touch, but it's not going to work for a silent build. So we're going to go ahead and set those aside. Now for the keycaps. These are shine-through plastic keycaps. They're very thin, they feel really cheap, and they don't feel good to the touch. I don't think these are going to aid us in our quest to a silent keyboard either, so we're not going to use these either. To whoever buys the keyboard, I am going to include them in case they want to switch everything back to a linear with plastic keycaps, but for this video, this is not going to work, so we're going to set these to the side as well. First, we got to address these switches, and this is where we bring in the silent ones. These are TEMU silent lemons. These cost me $15.93 for a set of 70. These are a 35-gram tactile silent / mute switch. They come silent. It's really weird. They're also 3-pin switches, so they're gonna work for this board. I really like the look of these. I've never used them before. I've never built a silent keyboard before. But yeah, I'm excited to check them out. But first things first, we gotta get them lubed. So we'll grab our buckets like we usually do and go ahead and get these separated. So at first we'll start by grabbing our switch opener. Also, shout out to KWI Board for dropping a comment and recommending me a switch opener. I actually don't have it for this video, but everybody knows that the current one I'm trying to use here always fails me with KL style switches. Not sure why, but it does. But that switch opener is on the way. I'm very excited to try it, but thank you so much for the comment and the recommendation. But as you can see here, this switch opener isn't doing it for me. We're gonna try another way, and that one, that side also fails. So we're gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. We'll go ahead and set this opener to the side, and we'll grab our small screwdriver. Alright, to open the old-fashioned way without a switch opener, we'll go ahead and grab our small flathead. You'll put the switch firmly between 2 fingers so it doesn't explode when you try to open it. You'll slide this under and lift the little tab off, and you should be good to go. Go ahead, just keep it slow, keep it steady. You won't have any problems. Okay? Firmly between the fingers. Let's try that again. If you firmly put this between your fingers and then slide your flathead under each side and take your clips off, then you should be good to go. Oh, almost lost it again. Okay, so just be slow and steady in this part. You don't want to lose anything. The springs are a pain to find. Alright, once we have all those apart, now it's time to start our lubing. These are a tactile switch, so we're going to lube them just like any other tactile. We're going to focus on the side rails here, and I'm going to focus on the inside of the stem hole. After that, we'll come back and we're actually going to lube the stem as well. I don't always do this, but for this build being a silent build, I wanted to exhaust every measure I could to give it the best opportunity to be a truly silent keyboard. Again, I'm new to this, and I don't know much about silent builds. Alright, now that our housings are lubed, we're going to go ahead and switch over to our stems. Here, we'll just grab our stem holder, grab again our 205G0, and we're just going to lightly brush each side of the stem, as well as the center insert. Now that we're all done with that, we're going to place some musical buckets, grab our springs, grab a bag, and we're going to go ahead and bag lube our springs. For this, I know some people use 205, but I just like using super lube in a bag. It's so much easier. So we'll go ahead and grab our super lube, do 15 drops or so, then we'll go ahead and shake for a few minutes. After that's done, we'll go ahead and get these switches assembled and back together. Alright, they're all lubed and back together, and they sound pretty silent. And now that we're satisfied with our results, we'll go ahead and get these back in the board. Remember, just make sure your pins are straight, go slow, press firmly, straight down. That way you don't bend anything or have any issues. You'll hear the snap from the plate, and you should be good to go. Alright, our switches are back in. The board is looking pretty good. The weight feels really good. It's still really light, of course, but it's better than when we started. Also, don't forget your knob. I do this too often. But yeah, just go ahead and slide your knob back on. And that brings us to our next and last step, the keycaps. Here they are. A nondescript brown box that tells you nothing about it. But yeah, these are them. I hope you like them. I will pick these up for $8.48. And they come in a bag. These are pink keycaps. Yay! These are supposed to be PBT double shot shine through keycaps, is what it says. And so let's take a look at them. Pulling out a bag, honestly, they feel a lot better than I expected for $8. They have a good thickness. They are shine through. They're OEM profile, and honestly, pretty impressed for the price point. So that leaves us to the last step. Let's go ahead and get these on here and see what they look like. And there you have it. The pink keycaps are on, and honestly, the board is looking really cute. I really like how it came out. Checking out the RGB, the shine through does really look good. All the legends match, they're all lined up, which is a really nice touch. I know that seems weird to point out, but a lot of times at a price point like this, the legends don't always match or line up, so it's good to see. But we're not here just for aesthetics. We need to know how it sounds. We need to see if it's silent. So let's head over to a sound test. Our final cost breakdown: $26.28 for the keyboard, $15.93 for the switches, and $8.48 for the keycaps, bringing our total cost to $50.69. Nice. And some final thoughts. It's really cute budget keyboard with a few nice features like hot swap sockets and a knob. But there's things to take note of. It is very budget, so mileage may vary. It's only compatible with 3-pin switches, so keep that in mind. And there are a lot of keyboards that are out now for under $30, so make sure you do your homework before committing to this one. Just be smart with your money. You don't want to waste it. And that's it. We built our first silent keyboard. If you could take a second to drop a like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. It helps out the channel a lot, and I would love you forever. And also, if you want to check out any of the products in this video, there's a link down below in the description. Thanks for watching, and keep keyboarding.